Welcome to Golf Smarter Mulligans number 39. I'm Fred Green. This is part 2 of our conversation with Darrin Gee from the Spirit of Golf Academy in Waikoloa, Hawaii, discussing his book, The 7 Principles of Golf. Now, if you missed last week's episode, please go back to hear Principles 1 through 3, then follow up with us here for Principles 4 through 7. If you're new to Golf Smarter Mulligans, these are game improvement conversations from the archives of Golf Smarter that are no longer available on any podcast app because they all only carry 300 episodes, and we're well into the 700s of Golf Smarter. So even though some of these interviews are more than a decade old, the insights and advice for golfers of all levels are still valid and relevant. Plus, you'll probably get a laugh as we discuss various dated technologies like DVDs or comment on a player that was doing well at the time. For more about the Spirit of Golf Academy and Darrin's book, The 7 Principles of Golf, check out spiritofgolfacademy.com. I'll leave a link in the show notes for today. And as I told you last week, at the time of this recording, there's a $50 off coupon for the Academy on that website. Golf Smarter Mulligans is brought to you by twoguyswithgolfballs.com. Now, if you play with different golf balls that you find and then complain about consistency, have you ever thought that it may be because you're not playing with the same ball every time? Think about that. I mean, golf balls all look alike, kinda, but they don't play alike. And that's really something that people don't believe, but it's true. Not every golf ball plays the same, and it depends on you. So the best thing for you to do is find a ball that you're comfortable with the price and you like to play because it is better for your game. For me, I like to play the Pro V1X, but I don't like the Pro V1. So you might want to check that out. And the best way to do it is by going to twoguyswithgolfballs.com because they have premium used golf balls at a fraction of the cost of new ones. Pro V1s are generally about half price, maybe even less than if you bought them new. So check them out today, and don't forget to use the coupon code GolfSmarter at checkout and get an additional 10% off every order, every time. That's twoguyswithgolfballs.com. And don't forget, that 10% discount offer for Golf Smarter listeners expires on April 1, 2020. Welcome back, Darrin.
Hey, good to be back, Fred. How are you doing?
Fine. That was like moments since we recorded our last
a moment in time. There you go.
For
one shot
else,
at a time.
You know, for everyone else, it could have been a week, and it may have been the next episode because people don't always. The beauty of podcasting, you don't have to listen as soon as the show comes out because this content's going to be relevant for a long time.
You bet.
So let's quickly do a recap of what we talked about in the 7 Principles of Golf and mastering the mental game of golf. We went over number 1 was balance.
Balance, and the second principle was feel. Mm-hmm. The third is visualizing the shot. Balance is about staying centered, finding your center and maintaining that through the swing. And I like to talk about once you find your balance is to imagine the spikes in your shoes rooting into the ground like the root system of a tree. And the root system of a tree, it's interesting because the root system usually below the ground is almost as big, if not bigger, than what's above the ground. So I tell people to imagine a willow tree, a palm tree, a bamboo reed with solid foundation, and then your upper body is still nice and loose and flexible. So balance is number 1. 2 is developing feel, and that's all about how you connect with the golf club. And the only part of your body that physically connects with the golf club are your hands. So that's maintaining a nice connection there. Something that I like to describe as being light but not too light, something that you feel is right for you. And that being said, the key word is you. You got to find what works for you. So experiment with different grip pressures until you find the one that fits, and then maintain that consistently through the swing. And then the third principle that we talked about prior is visualizing the shot, and to me that's about knowing what you want. First of all, setting a goal. So if you're on the putting green, I want it in the hole. If you're on the tee, I want my ball to end up at that exact spot in the fairway. And then visualizing how you're going to do it, or imagining in your mind's eye. And this is where you can get creative. And, working with 7,000 people over the past few years, I've heard everything under the sun now. One guy who worked for air traffic control, he's looking at that radar screen all day long. he saw blips on the ground that were like a radar screen going into the hole. I go, hey, that's it. That's you. That's what you do every day.
Perfect.
Powerful, So use your imagination when it comes to visualization. And then once you visualize how you're going to get there, then you got to trust and commit to it. And we're talking about not 99% or 99.99. I'm talking about 100% commitment to that shot, to that visualization. And if it's any less than that, that's a sign to step back and start the process over. And I think that's where we got to on our last discussion. We had talked briefly about ritual as well, and that's the next principle, the fourth one, creating your own pre-shot ritual. And to me, I use ritual instead of routine because rituals are more meaningful and significant, and they're very personal. So it's something that you can do to help you play your best on the golf course, and that's doing the same thing before every shot. And I think that's where we got to on the last one.
Right. And actually, I had a question about the pre-shot ritual.
Sure.
Are there elements of your pre-shot ritual that should be required? Are there things that you really need to incorporate, and however you do it, but you need to incorporate into your pre-shot ritual?
The one thing that I say, no matter who you are and what you do in your pre-shot ritual, that you need to incorporate is that you need to remember to breathe, okay? And people laugh like, no kidding, yeah, I hope you're breathing. But it's amazing because I'll watch people walk off the 18th green after playing, around the golf, and you see them, they're pale, they're listless, they're sweaty, they're dragging their feet, and they're exhausted because they've literally held their breath for the 4 hours they're out there because they're so tense. And when I mean held their breath, they're nervous, they're rushed, and their adrenaline's pumping, heart rate's beating for whatever reason, and they don't breathe and get enough oxygen into their muscles. And you look at the top athletes in golf, all other sports, they are in top condition because they have great lung capacity. They're able to really energize their muscles during the process of competition. So when I say breathe, what I talk about is when you start your ritual is to just take a huge breath deep into your lungs. And diaphragmatic breath or yogic breath or belly breathing where your belly kind of pops out, that's when you fill your lungs and you get a nice cleansing breath. What it does is two things. One is, in golf, we tend to be rushed, and we're not in our rhythm. Once you do that deep breath, it gets you into your individual rhythm, okay? And that kind of slows you down, gets you into your pace so that you can hit your best shot. And at the same time, it energizes all your muscles. So it gets full oxygen in your muscles so that you can perform at your best. And that's what I recommend is everyone does at least that one thing in their ritual. Everything else, it's totally up to them. Totally up to them, as long as it helps them. And I tell them, keep it simple, okay? Keep it personalized, keep it you, and then most importantly, remember to do it every time.
Right, exactly. It's interesting, you talk about the breathing part. I played with a guy that before each shot, as he addressed the ball, just before he was about to begin his swing, he took a deep breath and brought his shoulders up so high that he was practically covering his ears. And like the lats were like just pumped up, and it was like, and I was watching him, and I don't say anything because I've learned, but but it's like, how can you possibly get a swing going with your shoulders up that high and being that tense?
Well, it's interesting. My guess would be when he inhaled, lift up his shoulders, and then by the time he exhaled and executed the swing, he was able to release and relax.
I think that the exhale was after the swing.
After the swing?
Yeah.
Well, for everyone, it's a little bit different. So really what I would say is that he probably, that motion of his shoulders is probably kind of tensing everything up, and then when he got to his swing, then it relaxed everything. It's sort of like when we do going back to feel. Some people say, I just can't loosen my hands enough to get that free swing. And I say, well, let's grip it as tight as you can. Ultimately, grip that club as tight, 10 plus. And they're gripping as tight as they can, and then I say, relax your hands, okay? And that the relaxed grip, then they swing, and they go, oh, there it is. Mm-hmm. So sometimes when you got to tense up a little bit to then go to the opposite and relax. And I would guess that was what that gentleman was doing. I wasn't there, so that's what would be my conclusion on that.
Well, I just kept saying to myself, boy, he wouldn't have this many missed hits if he just relaxed a little bit. Just drop your shoulders.
Just breathe.
Yeah. Exactly.
Well, maybe the exhale would help. It's a two-part thing, inhaling and exhaling. So
right.
Yeah, so the ritual, again, finding what works for you, doing it consistently, and a lot of people skip it on the golf course. And what I tell people is that to remember to do it on the golf course, you got to practice the way you want to play. So when you're on the driving range, sometimes I'll see a guy or a gal out there with, big pile of golf balls, a couple hundred golf balls, and they're just firing away like a machine gun. And then I walk up to them and say, hey, you're really getting into rhythm, you're really striking it well. And they say, yeah, it feels great. And I say, well, how often do you get to play golf like that on the golf course? And they kind of have this look on their face like, never. So I tell people, yeah, there's a time for drilling and hitting balls over and over, getting that the repeatable swing, sure. But every time you practice, I want you to step back and hit a few shots as if you're on the golf course. Stepping back, going through your pre-shot ritual, visualizing yourself on the golf course. If you practice that way when you're on the golf course, it's simple, it's easy, it's not foreign, something that you do regularly.
Should the visualization of your target and your shot, should that be part of your ritual, or should you be doing the visualization before you start your ritual?
It's different for everyone. So I've seen people that will stand, and while other people are hitting and they're at their ball, they'll visualize their shot, and then they'll go into their ritual, and then boom. And then, do the trigger, deep breath, and they're up there and they're hitting it. For me, personally, I do make it a part of my ritual because it really helps me focus on what I want. So literally, I do my trigger, see that line, and then boom, go. And that's also, I think, the important thing that I haven't talked about too much with the ritual is that have a trigger, some type of physical trigger that says, okay, boom, now I'm playing golf. It's like you're flipping on the light switch. And that trigger doesn't have to be anything complex. In fact, you're probably already doing something already. And it could be, literally just, for me, it's taking my club and putting it on the ground on the line that I'm going to putt. That's my trigger. Some people, they plumb bob. That might be their trigger. Some people fix their hat every time before a shot. That might be their trigger. And what that does, that physical motion then becomes something internal. And once you do that, your body goes on, oh, I get it. Now's the time to focus, and it literally raises your level of concentration and performance from a kind of a basal metabolism or state to really peak just like that.
It's an interesting point because you mentioned in our previous conversation snapping your fingers.
Yeah.
And I really like the idea of giving yourself an audible type cue to get your mind into, okay, now.
Yeah,
now's
exactly.
The time. That's
exactly.
Great.
So yeah, it could be snapping your finger. For some people, yeah, they're odd. They hear. They're more into audible signals or cues. Some people are more physical. Some people can just do it, just thinking about it. So really, something that you can use that works for you. Again, personalize it. That's why I say, you got to create your own pre-shot ritual. Don't try to do anyone else's. Do your own. And whatever helps you then focus, and then you can use that off the golf course. I work with a lot of corporate executives. I do a lot of corporate programs in which we're teaching this to them, of course, in the golf context, but how do you use this in your professional life? And I say, let's say you're about to go talk to the board of your company, and this is an important meeting, and you're doing a half-hour presentation that gives them, thumbs up, thumbs down on what you're doing in your whole career. Do that trigger right before you start your presentation. Okay, it immediately raises your level of trust, commitment, and gets you to relax so that you can be at your peak. Otherwise, you're going to be kind of scattered. So do the same trigger that you do on the golf course you can have when you're about to give a big speech or have a big presentation or have a big sales call or whatever like that. And that's real powerful. That's been a real powerful tool for a lot of people.
I can see that's an excellent point. I can see that if I was playing with someone who wasn't having a very good day, if I were to snap my fingers every time I stepped that, they were like, would you knock it off already?
What are you doing?
I hate when you do that. No,
you're driving me crazy.
So yeah. I see maybe just taking the golf club and just putting it down on the ground, putting the head of the club down on the ground. It's like, oh, okay, I'm there. Now go.
Whatever works for you. And, for some people, you see a lot of golfers now tugging their sleeves, right, to loosen up their shoulders. Mm-hmm. And that started out because, these guys used to wear tighter shirts when they swing. So it literally started out as a way to loosen up because you needed to. Now the shirts are so baggy, you don't have to do it physically, but it's become a part of your ritual to help you remind yourself to relax and focus.
Well, if you're really sweaty, you're trying to just get the shirt off to loosen it up, but now they have these dry fit shirts that are so great nothing sticks anymore.
Don't need to do it, yeah.
All right, let's move on to principle number 5.
Okay, the 5th principle is finding your own natural swing. Now, when you find your natural swing, what I mean by that is that there are no two people that are alike in this world. We're all different in height, shape, sizes, physical, athletic experience. So no two people can expect to have the same swing. So it's interesting how you see people always saying, well, I want my spine, I want to be like Tiger. I want to swing just like him, look like him, and do all. I said, there's only one Tiger out there. So let's not try to be him, okay? You can learn from it, but then you got to find what fits you. And when I talk about natural swing, a lot of the examples I use are about, Fred Astaire. I use him all the time because he was actually a very good golfer. And in the movie Carefree, he's on the driving range hitting golf balls, and the music starts, and he's dancing and hitting golf balls at the same time. And it's pretty neat to see him do this because he's really hitting the ball quite well, and he has a driver, and he's hitting 5 balls teed up in a row, all in sync while he's doing this dance. And you see that ball just take off. And to me, that was his natural swing. It was a swing that fit him. It was his personality coming out in his golf swing, light, cheery, graceful, elegant, and that was his swing. And that's what I tell people is that if you'd like, you can match up your swing to your personality. So if you're laid back like an Ernie Els or Fred Couples, laid back swing sounds good to me. If you're more assertive and attack life like a Greg Norman or a Tiger or John Daly or Annika, then have an attack life swing. So it's really about finding what works best for you, what fits you. And that being said, some people say, well, if I match up my swing to my personality, we're all in a heap of trouble because they're type A's or, self-admitted type A's and stressed out, and they want to learn how to relax. And I tell those folks to do the opposite then. Try to find that swing that fits for what you want to become and what you want to achieve. And that's what real natural swing is about finding what fits best for you.
I don't think I've ever interviewed anyone that in one answer they gave me 2 examples of different Freds. I'm so impressed.
And you're the third. So I haven't seen the swing yet, Fred. So.
And it's only important to Freds. It's a bizarre thing. Most people don't, like, if you meet somebody that has a name Darrin, you don't really probably care. But there's something about Freds that we like, oh my God, Fred!
You guys unite. Freds unite.
Do you know that there's a Fred Society?
I did not know there's a Fred Society.
FredSociety.com. It's actually there. And there's a quote from Fred Couples. You brought it up.
There you go.
There's a quote to the 5th principle here. It says, people are always telling me I should do one thing or another. I should change my grip or shorten my swing. I should practice more and goof around less. I shouldn't smile on Sunday. I shouldn't. Frankly, I don't know why they worry. It's my life, and I don't worry.
There you go.
Great quote, Freddie.
That's it.
Yeah.
Play your game. And then it extends beyond swing, I think. How you play the game, too, how you approach each shot, how you approach the game itself. Find your own rhythm with it. And a lot of people say, well, gosh, I'm just so busy, I can't get out there and play every, 2 or 3 times a week. And I said, well, that's your lifestyle, so find what does work for you at this given moment. And that may be just going out and hitting the bucket once a week or just going out and hitting some putts in your living room. Find your own way with it so that you can still enjoy the game of golf.
And I think that it also rolls over to the fact that when you find an instructor, find one that's going to let you work with your own style. A frustration of people I've heard about golf academies is you go in for 2 or 3 days and they want to change your swing, they want to change what you do, change your style to match either theirs or Tiger's. No one's going to go and try to match you to Jim Furyk, but they want you to adjust to their system, where you probably be better off by going to a professional on an ongoing basis who's going to allow you to work with what you've got.
Yeah, I would say that again. That's a perfect example of finding your own natural swing. What style do you want for you? Mm-hmm. For some people, they do want to go there and get retooled and find that swing that and change their swing. Others want to just take what they have now and maximize it. Others really want to just find something completely different. So you have to determine what you want. Going back to visualization, what you want to do it and how you want to get there, and then find the right fit for you. So it may be the academy, it may be as someone locally, it may be just picking up a book or DVD and working out on your own. So again, finding your own style, and that's what I always tell people. They say, well, what should I do next? I say, well, if you're going to continue to work on your game, make sure you interview the people that are going to be working with you and see what their goals are and what their philosophy is, and make sure it matches to yours. And if it's a fit, then go for it. If it's not a fit, if it doesn't feel like that's the right person, by all means, then try to find someone else. And to me, when people come to our academy, I tell them, take the parts that work for you. Okay, it may be one principle, maybe another, maybe all 7. It may not be your cup of tea, and that's fine too. But you have to find what works for you as an individual, and that really brings out the 5th principle, finding your swing, because that's what's going to stick. And to me, that's the ultimate goal, is to find something that helps people enjoy it more, enjoy their lives more, and what better than to find a way that works for you.
Your academy is a 12-month-a-year academy, isn't it?
We are 365 days a year. Well, it's interesting, Fred, because in the 7 years we've done that, we've never been rained out once. So, 365 days a year. It's great.
And that is the Spirit of Golf Academy in the Big Island of Hawaii.
Yeah. Yep, Spirit of Golf Academy, and we do a great program. So if people come over, they've read the book or seen the DVD, we take them through the same principles step by step, but we work with you one-on-one on the principles in small clinics, and in 2.5 hours you can really see the impact. And we've had people, we had a guy who one day, he shot, the day before he took our clinic, he shot a 99, and the day after, actually the same day after taking the clinic, played right after, he shot a 77. And it was just by what he learned during our program. Didn't change the swing, didn't change the equipment, just by having him focus in a different way.
Interesting. Part of the exercises that you provide in the book under the 5th principle are practicing swings without hitting balls.
Oh, yeah. I think it's kind of where, if you visualize hitting, swinging perfectly, when you actually go out and do it, your body then responds based on how you've been thinking. So what I tell people is that when you're hitting, when you're practicing, it's almost like you can go out and not hit one golf ball and have a fantastic practice session. And it's swinging with your eyes closed, experimenting, just feeling the groove of your swing. And sometimes the ball actually gets in the way of improvement. And what I mean by that is, I have people do practice swings, and a lot of people, their practice swings are just fantastic, balanced, rhythmic, and if you were to hook them up to one of those computers, it would say, wow, this is a perfect swing. We could send this to the Golf Channel and view this to everybody, and this is what you should do. And then you put a little white ball in front of that same person, and it's like their evil twin shows up.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, there's a gap there. That's what I call the gap.
We're all phenomenal golfers on the driving range.
That's it. So what I tell people is that what we want to do is bridge the gap. Bridge the gap between your practice swing and your actual swing. And what you'll find is if you swing with your practice swing more regularly, you'll probably be a much better golfer. So a lot of the exercises we do is about taking a practice swing, stepping up, doing the same practice swing. And it just happens that one of those swings happens to have a ball in front of it. And so that practice swing without the ball becomes almost as important as actually when there is a ball. And once you can get people to get past the fact that it's really the same swing, then it frees them up to just let go. A lot of times people, when they're doing practice swings, they're not controlling. They just let it flow freely. And when they get to the ball, something happens, they tighten up. That's where we get back to having that light grip. And then when they can do that, that's when you see a big stair-step improvement in their game.
Well, there's so much pressure in golf. There's so many things that you're competing against. And then, oh, my God, somebody wants to play for money. But, I mean, you got to compete against par. You got to compete against the terrain. You got to compete against the weather. And so all of a sudden there's a ball in front of you and all those things are starting to come into your head. Yeah.
Well, that's why I think golf's such a great sport, because you can go out and play the same course, even the very same day, and it's a completely different course. Yeah. Conditions change constantly, right?
Well, look what happens at 4 days of a tournament.
There you go. I mean, whether you tee off at 8 or you tee off at 10, the course is completely different. And to me, that is a challenge, and that's why I like it so much, because it's always different. So to me, the way I look at it, I tell people, there's always going to be these things that you can then say are pressure, and don't ignore it. Certainly you may feel that, especially when you're on the first tee and there are a bunch of people watching. But once you step up to the ball, it's still you, the ball, in the hole. Nothing has changed physically. So that's where you can move into doing your ritual, and literally at the snap of a finger, you can eliminate. And what I tell a lot of people is when you do your trigger or cue and a deep breath in the beginning of your ritual, is that when you exhale, you just imagine a cocoon or a cloud around you, the ball, and your target, and that becomes your relative playing area, and you can almost eliminate all those pressures and all those extraneous thoughts. And that's how you kind of move in and out of it. And you talk to the top players when they win tournaments. When Tiger won the Masters a few years ago, he said, I didn't even realize after he hit the last putt, because I didn't even realize that I was done. I didn't even realize I had finished the tournament because I was just focused on each and every shot.
Wow.
And it was at that moment he goes, "Oh my God, I just won the Masters." I mean, that's amazing. And he is one of the best of all time that can do this. But he's human. We're human. So what I've done is taken what the great masters of the mental game have done naturally and just made it practical and simple for the everyday golfer, and made it very, like I said, step-by-step process, simple, easy, that you can pick up and learn and apply right away.
Wow. Right. Well, I think that leads us right into principle number 6.
Yeah, the 6th principle is called one shot at a time. Okay, and we've all heard it before.
This is like a little cliche, wouldn't you say?
It is a little cliche, and people say, well, do you want to include that? I go, certainly, because I think it sums up the essence of the game of golf.
Yeah.
Because in the game of golf, you're out there for 4 hours, you hit shot after shot, and it's sort of, it's a journey. You end up where you start. I like that. When you start in the first, you end the back, it's just about where you start. But you can't do it all at once. You can only play one shot at a time, and so it's about being present. And a lot of times, what people do when they're on the golf course is their mind is elsewhere. They're still thinking about that shot they hit 3 holes ago and they blew it, and they go, God, I still can't believe I did that. And what that does is that maintains that level into their next shot and distracts them.
You said you haven't seen me play.
What's that?
You said you haven't seen me play. I think you're wrong.
Did I just explain you?
Yes, you did.
So that happens, and then it affects the quality of what they're doing now. And then some people say, well, I can understand you want to let go of the bad shots, but why do you want to let go of the good shots? And I tell people is that a lot of times, maybe you have a birdie or a couple pars and a birdie, and you're thinking, gosh, I really got it down now. I really know what I'm doing. And you step up to the next tee, and you're still thinking about that birdie, and then you end up slicing one into, Never Land. It's because you're still focused on what you did prior. So you got to let go of everything you've done in the past. And then some people get ahead of themselves, and I think we've all done this before, where we add up our score on about the 15th hole and go, oh my gosh, I'm about to shoot my personal best score, right? Or you're leading the tournament, and you start thinking about, oh, I get to collect that trophy and that check today, and already right there, and then you've already leaped ahead, and you forgot one minor detail, which is you still have a ball sitting in front of you that you got to hit.
Can you say Phil Mickelson?
Can you? Yeah, I don't like to say any names, but again, it happens to everybody. It happens to everybody at every level. So it's really a practice that if you can stay in the present and just focus on that one shot, as if it's the only shot you're taking that day. And this is a concept that it takes sometimes a while to understand. Is that let's say that you just you get to hit one shot today, one shot, and that's your experience for golf. You would be so focused on that one shot and enjoying that process that you wouldn't be thinking about anything else because you only get that one shot. So it's almost like you have to isolate each individual one. And that's when you start playing your best golf, and that's how you can eliminate all the distractions.
Yeah. I make that joke about Phil Mickelson, and clearly I hope for him that's not his legacy, that everyone brings up the 18th, on that shot. But to me, I bring it up only to say it even happens to the second best player in the world.
That's right.
Right.
It
does happen to everybody.
Yeah, it happens to everybody.
So don't beat yourself up.
Yeah, and that's another thing is that we do that a lot out there. We beat ourselves up. Now I tell people, and there's, everyone has their own emotional approach to the game, and some people say, well, does that mean I can't get all mad? I go, sure you can if that helps you, but once you do it, by the time you get to the next shot, I want you to let that go. Okay, and that's what you see with the top players is that they don't hit every shot perfectly. In fact, they hit some very ugly ones. They rarely show it on TV, but they do. But by the time they get to the next shot, the better players have already said, okay, that's done. What am I going to do now? This is my one shot I got to focus on. And that's how they recover, and that's how they keep the big numbers from showing up on their scorecard. And that's what the typical golfer, middle handicapper, always has one or two blow-up holes. And they say, well, how do I prevent that? This is how you do it, just by focusing on one shot. Same thing goes for the low handicappers. We're talking about the scratch players and so forth. For them, when they're talking about fractions of inches between being a +1, +2, and being a 3 handicap. And for them, it's also being in the moment when they're under the gun, when they have to birdie a couple holes to stay in the match or to get into stroke play for a tournament. They need to be able to do that too. And again, this works for everybody across the board.
Let's
one shot at a time.
Yeah, let's move on to number 7 now.
7 is transform your golf game, transform your life. And to me, this is sort of the philosophy of how you look at the game and how you look at your life. And to me, there's a direct parallel. And you've heard golf is a great metaphor for life. And for me, it particularly was. I talked earlier in our prior interview that my former career was in business and marketing and strategic planning and so forth. And I enjoyed that for when I went into it, and that was a part of my goal, what I visualized, what I wanted to do. But when I got into it and started doing it flying and commuting for work between the West Coast and the East Coast for about 50 weeks in a row, I realized that was not what I really wanted in my life. So I had to kind of transform. And it was interesting because when I was in that stage of my life where I was traveling every week and getting really tired, and I was not playing any golf. And when I was playing golf, it was not a fun experience. It was extremely frustrating, and my game went south just like how I was experiencing life off the golf course. So what I noticed is that when I started to work on my game and really just kind of letting go, trusting, and being free, that also then set in motion the same type of actions in my life off the golf course. And that's when I started to explore, what do I really want in my life, visualizing what that is. And that's when I tied together my passions, golf, my love for teaching and coaching people, and then my undergrad was in psychology, and I've always been intrigued by peak performance and people operating at that level. So I combined them all to create the Spirit of Golf Academy and the books and DVDs. So to me, if you can use the same principles and learnings that you do on the golf course, that's going to affect your life and vice versa. So these 7 principles that we've gone through, they certainly apply off the golf course. Balance. I tell people, balance in your life. Balance your family, your career, relationships, the things for yourself, what you love to do, golf included. Balance it all out. Once you achieve that, you're going to have much higher level of satisfaction in your life. So sometimes people are off on one side too much versus the other, and you ask them if they're really happy, and they say, well, not really. So I tell people, get your life in balance so that it feels right for you. The same thing goes for all the other principles, and I can go through each of them one by one and apply it to life if you'd like me to do that, Fred.
Well, if you do go through the 7 principles of golf and you really practice them, you really, it's true, mastering the mental game on and off the golf course, and it really does work. The book, the videos, one on putting, volume 2 on the full swing, and it's Spirit of Golf Academy in Hawaii, which actually, if you're listening in Australia or Japan, or you're listening on the West Coast, the Midwest, or anywhere across the United States, it's a great destination place to go.
It's a wonderful place. Come out and join us for a few days.
Yeah, go to spiritofgolfhawaii.com and talk to Darrin.
Yeah, and then when you go to our website, you can at spiritofgolfhawaii.com, you can download for free my top 10 secrets to a great golf game. So that's something that everyone can go and get at our website, where we invite you to join us and pick that up.
Awesome. Darrin, thanks so much for your time for both of these episodes, and best of luck. And please stay in touch. It's awesome.
All right, pleasure, Fred. Come on out here, and we can do something live out here.
You're on.